All right, so recommended by viewer Dominique36127. This is Arbiter Ian channel. Every 40k faction is bad, and here's why. Warhammer 40,000 lore. This was noted in the comments that everybody was evil. That every faction is a bad guy, which I found very fascinating. And Arbiter Ian here actually has a nice little explanation as to why that is, and we're gonna find out why everybody happens to be evil. I don't know how the orcs are evil. They're party dudes. They're party guys. So let's check this out. Let's find out why they're evil.
Hi gang, what's your favourite faction in 40k?
Orcs.
Well, whatever they are, they're bad. As we all know, there are no good guys.
Orcs are not bad.
Games Workshop say so all the time. Everyone's bad. Chaos is bad. The Imperium is bad. Space bugs are bad. Everyone is bad. So in this video,
right, they're all bad. Orcs are cool.
Why your favourite faction are terrible people.
Everyone is bad.
There are no goodies in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. None. That's the official line, and there are hundreds of books to prove it, full of mindless slaughter,
hundreds of
wars,
books,
and awful decisions. Every single faction in 40k is bad. But occasionally, online, some people try to question this. It's a dangerous universe after all. Maybe this faction's decisions are justifiable because of survival or heroism or something. My faction, yeah, they're fine. They're the true good guys of the setting. And those bad things they did, well, those were just hard decisions that just had to be made. And I get it. People want simplified stories with clear heroes and villains. But that's not how life works, and as a work of satire, that's not how 40k works either. 40k is a war game, and despite the many simplified action movies out there, wars are never as simple as a single righteous cause. Goodies versus baddies. Despite how much some people might fetishize them, or the idea of being in them, wars are bad. And if you want a war game where every single faction can fight every single other faction forever, including fighting amongst themselves, then every single faction has to be bad too. So let's go through all of them and find out exactly how bad they are, starting with the most obvious one. The Imperium of Man is bad. I mean, this is the obvious one, isn't it? The Imperium are designed to be absolutely terrible. As Games Workshop themselves say, its numberless legions of soldiers and zealots bludgeon their way across the galaxy, delivering death to anyone and anything that doesn't adhere to their blinkered view of purity. Almost every man and woman toils in misery, either on the battlefield, where survival is measured in hours, or in the countless manufactorums and hive slums that fuel the Imperial war machine. All of this in slavish servitude to the living corpse of a god emperor whose commandments are at best only half remembered, twisted by time and the fallibility of humanity. The Imperium of Man stands as a cautionary tale of what could happen should the very worst of humanity's lust for power and extreme unyielding xenophobia set in. The Imperium.
That's all fundamentalism at its best. I could tell you that right now. Fundamentalism at its best. Oh my gosh. You know, there is an interesting question that I do have, and I'm very curious, is this society. Is all the societies in the factions normal? You know what I'm saying? Like, while we are following the soldiers, even though we're following the soldiers, are the factions like the humans, the Tyranids, and so on, do they have like a daily life? I mean, they have to have a daily life, but are they followed? Are the daily lives always followed, or is it just always the war part, the fighting part, that's always followed in the storytelling? I'm very curious to see what a neighborhood on Earth looks like, a neighborhood in with the Tyranids look like, you know what I'm saying, what their daily lives look like. Do they go to a restaurant? Do the Tyranids go to a restaurant and sit and have themselves space coffee while talking about the last show of Tyranid Apprentice or Tyranid Idol, keeping up with the Tyranids, that kind of thing. I'm very curious what a society would look like from these factions. And yes, the Orc Lord that I saw last time, got to see what their social orders are like. I mean, I would like to see their livelihoods, like when they're not fighting, when they're not out there doing war. What are they doing at home? Are they reading a newspaper? Are they wearing an apron? Is a Tyranid wearing an apron, or an orc? Well, an orc wouldn't even wear an apron. I could see, given the way the orcs are, I could see them seeing cooking as a fight. they'll be like fighting the stove to make sure the food gets cooked in something. But I'm very, very curious. Like, does a Tyranid wear an apron and make pancakes in the morning? And and then they have then when they have their political conversation, be like, them dang humans.
Is, if you've forgotten, a totalitarian, oppressive, backwards, conservative, religious fundamentalist dystopia, rife with division, intolerance, inequality, and outright slavery that cares almost nothing for any form of what we would call human rights. The planets that make it up are wildly different from medieval feudal societies, which are bad, to nightmare cyberpunk megacities. Also bad. On one hand, as long as its constituent planets toe the line in terms of their ties to the Imperium, they can do whatever they want. But in practice, this means that the Imperium as a whole legitimizes any form of rule as long as it keeps the status quo. Hereditary monarchies and class systems, absolutely fine. Ruthless dictatorships, totally okay. Indentured servitude and literal slavery, yeah, no problem. Sexism, homophobia, racism, do what you want on your planet, the Imperium does not care. But if you try and revolt and improve things, well, the Imperium cares then, and you can expect to be bombed into oblivion for the crime of being disruptive. Of course, the Imperium does all this in the name of survival. That's what its defenders say. And yeah, sometimes the wars fought by its many armies are wars of self-defense. But even that comes with caveats. The guy who formed the Imperium, the Emperor, believes pretty strongly in the manifest destiny of humanity, also something we know is bad. The Imperium therefore believes that any form of intelligent life other than humanity needs to be completely wiped out just in case, regardless of if they're actually a threat, which can lead to strange definitions for wars of survival. Of course, the other main threat to humanity is chaos, which the Imperium solves by creating conditions so oppressive that underground cults promising a better life find it really easy to gain traction. A huge proportion of the chaos threat in 40k comes from formerly Imperial armies who were treated so horribly they went looking for something else. And while the Imperium is under threat from those things, this survival rhetoric ignores the fact that a huge proportion of wars fought by humanity are wars of honor, also a concept that's bad. Imperial forces are likely to go to war because it impugns their honor not to, or because the actions of a foe can be construed as an insult to someone in the Imperium, or for a variety of religious reasons. Whole wasteful crusades have been fought to reclaim worlds of almost zero value because of a rumor of a lost religious relic, or the dishonor of an overrun shrine. The Imperium is also horrifically corrupt at every level, which means that whole wars can be started because of intra-governmental politicking and one-upmanship. It's also obsessed with genetic purity, no red flags there, partially because of that guy, but also because of the threat of chaos that is then played up to ludicrous levels. Though officially, the Imperium isn't actually racist within humanity. If you happen to display any physical traits that seem out of the norm to the local population, you can expect a swift burning at a stake soon afterwards. The Imperium is bad. In its nominal fight to save humanity, it frequently causes just way more suffering and hardship than it actually needs to, and its own sense of righteousness stops it from ever accepting that there might be a better way. And it's so focused on the idea of humanity as a whole,
those look like angel wings.
Actually gives much of a shit about individual humans. But we can't just stop there, because all of its armies are bad too, in their own special way. The Space Marines are ruthless, unfeeling, hypno-indoctrinated super soldiers who are bad.
Little
They
boy!
replicate by abducting small children, cutting them open and filling them with gene seeds, brainwashing them, and then consigning them to an eternity of constant war.
Damn.
Corporations who supply those children frequently have
Space
no
King.
choice in this. Depending on the chapter, they might see regular humans as little more than collateral damage or a source of handy slaves. Even the nicer ones are horrific mass murderers willing to inflict huge losses on their own side.
The nicer ones.
The Astra Militarum is the ultimate uncaring military system. They're also bad. It conscripts soldiers by law into a never-ending tour of duty and then throws them into hopeless situations millions at a time, often because human life is considered cheaper to expend than material.
That's very
resources are.
Soviet.
This is enabled by a literal cult of sacrifice. That's bad, everyone. All of which results in an average soldier's life expectancy being around 15 hours. On the other hand, its upper echelons are riddled by classism. Being from the right family will absolutely get you a safe position of command behind the lines, regardless of how many people die from your stupid decisions. And if for any reason this system might, not work that well, they just have a whole rank of people who just shoot whoever
looks wrong.
The Adeptus Ministorum and its pet army, the Sisters of Battle, are also bad. A ridiculously over-the-top, oppressive theocracy. They insist on total control over the religious beliefs of every human and will happily burn anyone who disagrees as a heretic, despite the fact that their God Emperor spent his entire life telling them not to. That doesn't matter to them because they're also hopelessly corrupt. The higher echelons of the church are willing to use their position and the millennia of established church law to live in unimaginable luxury and get away with practically anything they want by whipping up their supporters into a war of faith. In fact, they're such a liability that the rest of the Imperium has to repeatedly try and curb their power. The reflection of them is the Sisters of Battle, an army of, again, radicalized orphans with no option but to serve the church until death. They are true believers, the irony there being that their own colossal self-righteousness actually creates a psychic effect.
Whoa.
Dub miracles
what
from
an
the
art.
Emperor while burning anyone else who exhibits similar psychic abilities. Quite apart from the
Psychic
use of
powers,
religion as a tool of control, the entire organization are murderous hypocrites. The Adeptus Mechanicus are bad, a ludicrous organization to put in charge of scientific advancement, since they're also a bunch of religious fundamentalists who, at least nominally, believe progress to be heretical. They are slightly more meritocratic than the rest of the Imperium, but all that means is that your average tech priest is a
that is
egotist
horrifying.
And who feels justified in cybernetically
enslaving they look like the Phyrexians.
Now, there is an argument that the reason you put such a conservative organization in charge of technological progress is because, well, science gone wrong has been a problem for humanity in the past, but unfortunately, just like the other religious organization here, tech priests are massive hypocrites and will frequently bend every possible rule and create the most dangerous experimental technology possible if they reckon they can get away with it. The Adeptus Arbites are, of course, bastards, a law enforcement agency who will happily throw the death penalty
there's
at
law,
anyone
the cops.
or anything. They're the epitome of state control of violence. They're also a reference to Judge Dredd, who, let's not forget,
is
meant to be bad. And if that wasn't enough, the Imperium has an actual Inquisition, a space navy that happily press gang millions of innocent people and then work them to death below decks, all while their upper classes host lavish dinners at the captain's table, and the Imperial Knights, an entire strata of feudal aristocrats who rule over a peasant class and control their walking mech suits through special chairs that actually turn them into even bigger dicks. All of this is also bad. It's a bit questionable how bad the Imperium would still be if the Emperor had survived, because his regime was pretty terrible, but the Imperium is definitely, absolutely bad. But don't worry, as Games Workshop said, there are...
Oh my gosh, and this was half the video. Dang! They took humans as bad to a whole nother level. Jeez. Holy dang. Like, from religious fundamentalism to classism. Oh my gosh! And then there's a technological science. I guess Scientologists or some science maniacs. Oh my gosh! That look like Phyrexians. They freaking look like Phyrexians. It's insane. Oh damn! you don't want to be a human being in this world at all. Like everything. You know what it reminds me of, and then his psychic powers. But you know what it reminds me of? That episode of Rick and Morty when Rick stripped out all the bad, from himself and Morty, and you just see this weird, I guess it's gelatinous green blob version of them that's all pure evil and anger and everything. That's what this feels like with the humans. Like they all got stuck into that machine, and all the evil got ripped out of humanity, and then just wreaked havoc on the universe. Pure hatred. So all in all, it's nothing but absolute hatred. Damn. It is absolute hatred right in the heart. And then they go kidnapping kids and turn them into machines, sticking them into marine machines. Then you got orphans who get proselytized by psychic stuff. Oh my gosh. This is amazing. This is amazing. That the level of evil is amazing. The orcs are awesome by comparison. Why would I want to be with the humans? At least the orcs are true to their thing. They're not being hypocrites or anything. They just want to party out and beat people up. Oh man. Well, is he gonna? I hope he has enough time to cover the other factions. I gotta know what their evil is.
But no good guys in 40k, so everyone else is bad too. The Leagues of Votan are bad. They're also a really good foil to the Imperium because rather than ancient notions of manifest destiny, bigoted conservatism and xenophobia, the Leagues of Votan are humans, sort of, who get to be bad in a whole new way. They're space capitalists. The Leagues want resources, your resources, and they don't care how many planets, ecosystems, and environments they have to destroy to get them. Is your planet a verdant paradise packed with mineral wealth? Well, better get ready to be high-lased, because if you happen to be in the way, then you might just get blown up at the same time. Anything to get those gems, literally anything. In a similar vein, the ancient Eldari are also bad. There are many different sorts of space elf, and they're all bad in their own special ways, but one of their common traits is being a bunch of arrogant racists who genuinely believe that the Eldar are just fundamentally superior to everyone else. Craftworld Eldar, the good ones, view every other species of the galaxy as little more than barely evolved animals and will happily sacrifice billions of humans on the off chance that not doing so might lead to the death of a single Eldar. And they're pals with the Exodites, who will happily murder anyone for stepping on their lawn. And then... Then we have the Drakari. The inhabitants of the dark city of Komorra treat everyone else in the galaxy like fuel and have developed a whole
they do look like major villains.
As much pain as possible to keep themselves safe from Slaanesh. Now, you could argue that this is another necessity for their survival, but of course it isn't. The Drakari just enjoy it. Slave raiding for more torture fuel is a major part of their culture. Watching people get murdered in gladiatorial arenas is their main source of entertainment, and they do all this because living on a craft world or an Exodite maiden world just sounded boring. Eldar are really free to move between all their different cultures. The Drakari stay in theirs out of choice. And then
yo, that's insane. They enjoy killing people because they're bored. Yo, that's the worst kind of bad. I'm bored, so I'm just gonna start killing people because I need to be entertained with something. That's madness. What a lore build on that one. Oh man. So we're bored. Oh my gosh. I would have expected boredom from the orcs. Not like this. Oh my gosh. But the thing is that they don't go out into battle like the orcs do. They just capture you and put you in a gladiator thing, throw a couple of cue sticks and say fight each other. That's madness. Oh. That's not bad. That's madness.
Outside those main Eldar factions, you have a death cult and a bunch of murder clowns whose main job is to try and make sure all the different Eldari factions have each other's back against, the inferior, lesser species they keep murdering. Then we have the Necrons, who are obviously bad. The Necrons are a species who launched an entire war because they were jealous of the Eldar's dads, and in order to win it, they gave a bunch of space vampires even more power, which obviously had no bad effects. They, just like everyone, can't share. They claim rightful ownership over the entire galaxy and mostly consider anyone else living in it a sort of infestation to be exterminated. Their society is split into another series of hereditary class-based monarchies, except since they turned themselves into robots, all the lower levels of society are,
they look like the Terminators,
mindless robot slaves. And then there's the Tau, who might look like the nicest on the surface, but no, they're bad. The Tau Empire dreams of uniting all the disparate species of the galaxy under the doctrine of the greater good, and their watercast envoys send out diplomatic missions to convince nearby planets to peacefully join them. And if they seem reticent, that's fine. They'll just use economic manipulation or outright war to achieve the same results. The Tau Empire must expand after all. Once you're in the Empire, you get all the benefits of advanced Tau society as long as you're willing to live as definite second-class citizens. Oh, and if anything goes wrong, the Tau commanders might just execute all the weird aliens just to be safe. And
oh, dang. So they're like, I come in peace. And then guns pop out of their sleeves and like deny their want for peace with you. They remind me of didn't Genghis Khan do that? Wasn't that one of Genghis Khan's techniques, tactics? He'd show up, he'd be like, join me or I will tear you down. I'll give you peace or I will destroy your city. He gave them that option. Isn't that what Genghis Khan did? That's a Genghis Khan move. I ever heard one. We bring you peace or you or die. Peace or death.
No one's really sure if this is all based on ethereal mind control or not, but yeah. Join the Tau Empire, fight for the greater good, and don't get ideas about
the greater good.
Now, orcs are an interesting one.
Yeah.
Originally as a tool of war, and who treat fighting as a fun form of entertainment.
Yes.
There's an argument that orcs aren't actually morally that bad. They just really, really like fighting, and they can't change that. Their wars are fought out of biological imperative, and they frequently cause just as much damage to themselves as everyone else. And yeah, that sort of tracks until you see what happens after orcs win their wars, because orcs, like apparently everyone else in the setting, are slavers. Captured humans can look forward to horrible treatment, being worked to death, and being the subject of casual cruelty just because the orcs think it's funny. Stuff that implies a definite choice to be a dick. Yeah, orcs are still bad. But finally, for the alien sector of the galaxy, we get the Tyranids, a huge alien bug swarm. The Tyranids probably have the best claim of all the Xenos of 40k to being not actually bad. They're kind of depicted like a swarm of locusts, inevitably drawn to populated areas of the galaxy to consume, with no more moral choice over that than any other animal might have. Unlike the orcs, they aren't deliberately cruel, they don't torture captives, and it's implied there's no real other way for them to exist. And to a degree, that also rings true for gene stealer cults, who are people who have been, to various extents, psychically and biologically manipulated by a Tyranid parasite until they aren't really acting from a position of free will anymore. So while they're obviously designed in every way to mimic horror movie monsters, it's hard to make a case for the Tyranids actually being like morally bad rather than just, you know, dangerous. But then we don't actually know how clever the hive mind that's in control of them is. It's certainly able to adapt in ways that suggest
so they're like the Borg or like the slivers,
which might suggest the ability to make moral decisions. So I'm gonna go with like maybe bad. Anyway, then finally,
I mean, it could still be bad, but well, now you got in that case you got to define what you mean by bad. Morally bad, socially bad. You know, now the breakdown is happening. So the preface that Arbitor Ian started off with was comes off as something of morality. Now all of a sudden we find that the Tyranids are not really morally bad in a moral sense. He needed to really clearly define that. He had to clearly define that a little bit better, honestly, because the the more, I guess I wouldn't say sentient, but the more structured, I guess, the more structured races, the humans, the Eldari, the Tau Empire, they have absolute self-conscious awareness of right and wrong, and they chose to be wrong, even though they believe in themselves to be right. Oh gosh, I think I'm whiplashing my brain here. But then when he comes to the orcs, he points out that they're not morally bad, but their behavior, their actions and behaviors are still bad, and they still and if victorious, they will be tormentors and slavers all around. But and then we come to the Tyranids, who are more bug-like, with a hive-like mind, like any bug would be, and doesn't have a sense of bad morality. They're just only bad on the basis that they swarm. Yeah, this is tough. When trying to declare that all race and factions are bad, you gotta really clearly define what that means for the story and the lore. You can't just say bad if there's going to be layers of cruelty and evilness. Maybe bad might not even be the term to go with, because yeah, their behaviors are bad, but if they are the lesser, if the orcs are the lesser of two evils, it's like, are they really wow, because you're saying that they're not bad in comparison, but they're still bad. It's such a contradiction to say if you're trying to say they're all bad. That's a very difficult thing to do in this manner with the world built. Because if you're gonna say everybody is bad, there's got to be some semblance of morality within each faction. Sort of like how you say, a code. There we go. They have either a philosophy that is bad or a morality that is bad. Like in the case of the humans, they got a lot of bad morality, while the Tau Empire has the philosophy of the greater good, and that's bad in and of itself. So the orcs, like I said, they're party dudes. But how can they be? How can you sit there and say they're bad? Maybe dangerous would be the appropriate word, but to try to gauge them whether they're philosophically bad or morally bad is extraordinarily difficult, because they have a very different mindset. Their concept of good and bad, which is expressed through fighting. Fighting is good. Not fighting is bad. That's basically their ideology in a sense. So they would have to be ideologically bad. That would make a lot of sense. So now we got the humans who are morally bad. We have Tau, who is philosophically bad, and we got the orcs, who are ideologically bad, because their ideology is you go out and fight. Not fighting is bad. Fighting is good. That's an ideology. Perhaps, maybe, if you want to express bad in the world of Warhammer, it would have to be done at a level. You would have to clearly define what the badness is, because then you're gonna sit there and say the Tyranids are not morally bad. They're just a bunch of bugs that are hive mind. They would have to be naturally bad. Naturalistically bad. I don't know. Well, to say naturally bad is not right. The Tyranids would have to be. Well, they're not fundamentally bad. They live on a hive mind. Naturally, no. Because that means that they're bound by nature. And usually with nature, they're instinctually bad. There we go. The Tyranids are instinctually bad. Hey, there we go. So humans morally bad. The Tau Empire philosophically bad. The Orcs ideologically bad. The Tyranids instinctually bad. Now we just gotta figure out about the Drakari and the the Eldari. What would they fundamentally bad? I think they would be fundamentally bad. Yeah, Eldari would be fundamentally bad. Yeah, so humans morally bad, Eldari fundamentally bad, Tau Empire philosophically bad, Orcs ideologically bad, Tyranids instinctually bad. There we go. There's our level of badness. If we wanna start really bringing down to the semantics and the technicals. Let's get the. It's not that far done. Let's finish this off.
After all the slavery, manifest destiny, slavery, resource consumption, slavery, torture porn, and slavery, we get to the actual villains of 40k, Chaos. And guess what? Chaos is bad. So Chaos is a difficult one at first glance. The four great powers of Chaos, Khorne, Slaanesh, Nurgle, and Tzeentch, are a bit
dang,
like
Slaanesh
the
looks like
Tyranids
that?
in that they aren't really capable of free will. Khorne isn't a person who chooses to be really bloodthirsty. Khorne is the emotion of anger, a great metaphysical cloud composed only
emotionally
of anger
bad,
and whose desire is to only make more of itself. It doesn't understand what good and bad are, so calling Khorne evil would be like calling a really dangerous hurricane evil. It can't really act any other way. Khorne is always going to create as much anger as possible, Tzeentch as much scheming and betrayal as possible, Nurgle as much plague and disease as possible, and Slaanesh as much decadence as possible, and none of them are capable of understanding moderation. The lesson of Chaos is that anything in excess is very, very dangerous, but they can't really act in any other way. And it's arguable that this applies to demons too, who are minor reflections of their master, so they're also incapable of acting any other way. But Chaos does not get a free pass, because not only are they bad for everyone else, but also because the real threat of Chaos tends to come from those who serve it, and those people are bad. Pretty much all the armies
I just love how he stresses bad.
are composed of humans or other alien species who decided that serving Chaos might give them power. And since Chaos tends towards the excessive, gaining that power requires doing really bad stuff. Some Chaos followers are just overtly power-hungry monsters, sacrificing entire worlds for the promise of immortality or material gain. Some Chaos followers treat it like a religion, sacrificing millions for the glory of their gods, again, a choice in this world. And some Chaos followers are just really, really bitter people who only care about revenge, a motivation that is generally considered bad. Even the demonic legions, who, to be fair, don't really get a choice, tend to be led by demon princes, who were once mortal chaos worshippers who fell into one of the other three brackets. So, yeah, bad. Chaos promise freedom from the oppressive Imperium and limitless power, but to get it, you have to be pretty bad. So there, everyone in 40k is bad. Whoever you pick, they're terrible people making awful decisions, like, say, wars. It's the perfect justification for a war game, and weirdly less problematic than a million other games and IPs that glorify war by insisting one side is fighting for some sort of oversimplified righteous cause. The fact that every faction has layer upon layer of infighting, leading to cynical politics, terrible decisions, and countless deaths is surprisingly realistic.
Yeah.
That's how most real-world wars work. In fact, it's
It
what many
happens.
sci-fi franchises have had to adopt over the years when they get to a certain level of complexity, because the idea of a completely righteous cause never really holds up. Generally, even the overt good guys have to adopt some shades of grey to make them believable. This world also forces the writers to come up with ways of making characters that are actually relatable within this. Otherwise, selling Black Library books would be really hard. The heroes of these stories tend to be
And
flawed
Bison.
individuals, trying to do their best to protect their friends and comrades while trapped within a terrible system. Or even people indoctrinated into the terrible system who have to make hard choices about when to toe the line and when to do the right thing. Which is, of course, all very relatable. The fact that every faction in 40k is terrible in their own unique way, that no cause is completely righteous and just, is what makes 40k so popular, because it's just an exaggerated version of the real world. Anyway, that's it. You've been a bad viewer.
I'm a very bad viewer. Oh my gosh. Oh wow. I didn't I did not comprehend the level of bad that exists in 40k. Dang. When I talk about layers upon layers upon layers, I feel like just saying bad is oversimplifying the whole thing. They have each of these factions really have an adjective next to that bad. So yeah, let me know what all of you think down in the comments below. Does it make sense that the Imperium is morally bad, the Eldari is fundamentally bad, the Tau Empire is philosophically bad, the Orcs are ideologically bad, the Tyranids are instinctually bad, and Chaos is emotionally bad? So there you go, guys. Debate down below in the comments, because dang, that's pretty freaking impressive. I mean, it's really impressive that Game Shop was able to the lore masters were able to centralize evilness and bad the way that they did, because it's very easy to slip into wanting to put in a good guy when you have so much negativity in something, but to be able to harness it and flesh it out, expand upon it, make it three-dimensional, show the ambiguity within that's not easy to do as writing, in terms of writing. Trying to write bad guys consistently is extraordinarily impressive, especially since as the saying goes, your good guy is only as good as the bad guy you create, that whole saying. And definitely it shows here that despite the fact that everybody is a bad guy, their points of view has a lot of interesting, I wouldn't say interesting. It's interesting to see what their point of view, their outlook of the world is and everything. That's why I say, the Tyranids, for example, they're just all they're just doing is going by instinct alone, and from everybody's point of view, that's bad. But from their point of view, that's who they are. That's who they are. They gotta live to eat. They gotta do whatever they can, to ensure the survival of their species. And if that means being like a bunch of locusts and eating out all the wheat, they'll do it, even though they don't want to do it. I mean, they probably, it sounds like they don't want to do it, but because they are insect-like in nature, it's their insatiable nature to go and consume whatever they can. So from our point of view, it's like, oh, that's bad. This is what makes them bad. But from their point of view, it's a must. They want to live. They're looking to live. They don't want to die. They don't want their species to go extinct. And so they got to do what they got to do as a locust-like species to ensure that they live. So this is some of the most fascinating things that they were able to accomplish, in storytelling. They don't. That's why I understand why he says they're the least bad, but it's still bad. It's bad in the case that they can consume and destroy everything because of their insatiable appetites, and it's pretty well thought out, actually. It's pretty well thought out and very well executed in this case here, and very well done. That's not easy to do, quite honestly. It's not easy to do when you have to deal with when you have multiple factions and you got to pick them all as evil in some way, shape, or form. So yeah, man, Arbiter Ian. Make sure to check out Arbiter Ian. Every 40k faction is bad, and here's why. Warhammer 40k lore. Check out the channel. You'll find the links down in the description below. Dang, what a world! So just to note that big thanks to Dominique36127 for recommending Arbiter Ian. Thank you very much. That was pretty awesome. That was a pretty awesome research there.